While we can't fix every mistake that anime has created, and while I myself have never made a mistake, so I'm a bit detached from this topic, we can still talk about a lot of mistakes that occurred in the Pokemon anime. From time to time, the Pokemon anime messes up and does something that sticks out that makes you ask your friends, did you see that too? With a title like 20 mistakes in the Pokemon anime, you could be wondering how hard it could possibly be to find that many. It's not, I could have picked 20 from the first episode alone. But even so, we'll be picking out 20 mistakes in the entire Pokemon anime that you would for sure remember due to how big they were. Or ones you could have missed, but you'll never miss again and will now be on the hunt for more. These are 20 of the mistakes in the Pokemon anime. Speaking of the first episode of Pokemon, one of those many small animation mistakes appears when Ash opens up his Pokédex with his rubber gloves. The Pokédex is missing its directional buttons, which are normally there and are seen from here on after in this series, just not in this one specific scene. This may seem like a mistake, but could also allude to the first season of Pokemon having no real direction. The first episode is the subject of another mistake, as even though this isn't a mistake in the first episode itself, a moment from the movie Pokemon Forever tries to recreate Ash's journey from the first episode. If you remember how Ash's adventure started in the original series, then you'd know for sure that he woke up late and ran in his pajamas to Professor Oak's lab. This scene was shown to have Ash in his regular clothes instead of his pajamas when getting Pikachu for the first time. This mistake was also recreated in the movie Pokemon Heroes, where Brock was narrating the story of how Ash met Pikachu, and Ash was again shown in his regular clothes. Ash is seen to have many mistakes that get more and more apparent throughout the series, as in the Pokemon Black and White movies, his lips don't move when he asks Victini to lend him its power. It also makes a picture prime for memes, as you can see his mouth on the side of his face and his lips pursed in the front. This looks like an art piece depicting someone having multiple feelings at once, or as I like to call it, Bolden Ash. You can also see Ash with more fingers than he should have in the most recent series, as in the episode Flash of Titans from the still ongoing Pokemon Journeys adventure, you can see he has an extra finger on his right hand. Pretty sure that's against the league rules. One mistake that you mentioned from the last video on this topic, that's probably one of the most iconic mistakes, and even one that would likely lead to more mistakes and arguments with your friends, was the Pokemon Trainer Choice segment during the episode A Fan with a Plan. Unfortunately, fans wouldn't have any way of planning for this, as the episode segment says that Arbok evolves into Seviper. Animation mistakes happen, sometimes your finger slips while drawing and it goes onto Ash's right hand, but someone had to have chosen this whole segment to then have it animated, place the artwork, have the character say the name, and play it all together.
Trainers, which one of these Pokemon evolves into Seviper?
It's Suicune! This is quite a different mistake than normal, and one that I'm sure led to at least a few people wondering how they could evolve their Arbok into a Seviper, or that their Gen 3 games were glitched. At least they're both snakes, so this mistake makes some sense.
Okay, trainers, if you chose Arbok, you were right.
What? You look like a snake!
Another infamous mistake that's remembered are the jelly-filled donuts. While it isn't a mistake, sometimes the choices of 4Kids can be questioned and turned into memes. It's very clear those are rice balls. Maybe Brock cooked donuts too and put them in the same wrapper and just kept a smile on his face knowing he confused the wrong package. But the dub is seen changing rice balls time and time again to different foods. Team Rocket and Jimmy both had this happen to them as well, except with a different assortment of replacement food. This dub edit has infamously come across as one that's constantly mentioned when any mistake is ever brought up or made in Pokemon, and has created so many meme-filled posts. The origins of this meme is from the episode Primeape Goes Bananas, which is a fitting title as everyone went crazy over this. An iconic part of Season 1 was the Pokemon rap that consisted of the singer rapping about Pokemon names that he's probably not going to catch, but hopes to someday. He's very unlikely to do any of that, as he can't even catch sight of the right Pokemon, seeing as he mentions Poliwrath when a Poliwag is shown. It also shows the name Poliwrath underneath Poliwag, adding a mistake to this verse. What's funny is that when they finally chose to fix the Pokemon rap with version 2, the episode that premiered in has an error with the same Pokemon line. The instructor in the episode shows an image of a Poliwrath and Poliwag, but calls them Poliwhirl and Poliwag.
Has any
master would know, when Poliwag evolves into Poliwhirl, the swirl on its stomach reverses direction.
This isn't the fault of the voice actor, as in the Japanese version, these are the two Pokemon shown, but in the English dubbed version, they changed the Poliwhirl that's there to a Poliwrath without telling him to change that line. There's something about Poliwrath that just causes mistakes. Another error from something that shows up as often as the Pokemon rap is the intro to Pokemon, where you can see a Zubat carrying a Squirtle through the air, even though it doesn't have any arms or hand-like feet to grab onto Squirtle. This is a scene from the Tentacool and Tentacruel episode where Brock's Zubat carries Ash's Squirtle through the air. Not sure how they would manage to explain that one. Explaining that may seem hard, but one moment in the movie Mewtwo Returns manages to top that in difficulty of explaining how something came to be. In Mewtwo Returns, you can see two tiny Pokemon here that are supposed to be baby versions from the clone Pokemon they created. But if you remember, Nidoqueen can't breed and are only female. So how did the clone Nidoqueen manage to make a baby Nidoqueen, as well as completely removing Nidoran and Nidorina from the equation? It also sparked the post "I never quite understood how Mewtwo Returns screwed this up," where countless people tried to figure this out. This has been chalked up to anime physics, which is a term for when something makes absolutely no sense in a show and would need to bring a militia of writers back from the grave to figure out how they can competently explain this miraculous phenomenon. We can also see another example of anime physics as two more technical errors occur in the anime where Brock pitches a Fortress into a Mecha Spinda during going for a Spinda. Fortress weighs 277 pounds. How is he lifting it so easily, let alone being able to throw it that hard with only one arm? This anomaly of anime physics is also shown with Iris's Axew during the Black and White series, as it's constantly riding on her hair and moving around without Iris showing a sign of discomfort. Axew weighs almost 40 pounds, it's a lot to lift with just strands of hair. Unless you're Grimmsnarl, I'm not sure how hair can be used as something to climb on. Back to some more classic mistakes in the anime, during May We Hardly Drewed Ya, which is already its own mistake in a different way, but we aren't adding that to the counter, you can see that the sign says Grand Festival. We talked about this episode in another video mentioning how Jesse's feet were missing, but we didn't talk about how the writers were missing the keys on their keyboard. Keep your eyes on the screen because we're playing Spot the Difference. What's the difference between these two scenes? You guessed it, or maybe you didn't because I gave you like 2 seconds. It's the drawings on May Squirtle's face after May goes into the Pokemon Center. Our next segment is a stew of the many times Pokemon moves have created different mistakes. In Diamond and Pearl, Pikachu was defeated by Onix's Screech attack. Screech does absolutely no damage and only reduces the defense, so there's no way Pikachu should be defeated by that move. Unless he was physically just tired of this and decided to fake a feint so he could be switched out. That mistake is similar to the episode Wired for Battle, as the character Shingo commands his Scizor to finish the match with a false swipe.
Finish it up with false swipe!
Even though we all know false swipe doesn't knock out other Pokemon and leaves them at 1 HP so we can catch them easily. Probably not the best strategic decision. Ash also has his moments of move mistakes as he tells Lapras to use Cold Beam.
Okay, Lapras, Cold Beam.
He's really asking for Ice Beam, which Lapras does end up using, but I imagine Lapras looked back at him with a cold look just to say, bruh, and did the correct move itself. Ash isn't completely wrong though, it is cold. Ash is also seen commanding his Bulbasaur to use Whirlwind. Bulbasaur actually can't learn or use Whirlwind in any games, however both this and the Lapras mistake are chalked up to dubbing errors, as in Japanese, Ash was telling Bulbasaur to blow it away rather than commanding him to use an attack, and cold is pretty close to ice in terms of elements. Finally, for move mistakes, in the episode Shipful of Shivers, we shiver as Jessie commands her Arbok to use Tackle against a Haunter they're fighting. Not only is that its own mistake because normal type moves don't affect Ghost, it's also a move that Arbok doesn't learn in any way. Imagine admitting to everyone that you hacked your Pokemon to have a move it shouldn't have and you chose Tackle to use against a Ghost. Oh no, it's actually just a rare tackling Arbok. What a decision that must have been for Jessie to display in front of everyone watching her on TV. And the final mistakes in the anime here are 2 mistakes that give Pokemon a new light. You can see Weedle in this episode colored green like a Caterpie, which is probably what they mistook it for and colored it as such. But the even better miscoloring mistake, however, is in Pokemon Sun and Moon's 5th episode, as you can see that they accidentally miscolored Togedemaru as Pikachu. I mean, that's cute and memorable, and it also lets us see 2 little Pokemon as other Pokemon colors that are somewhat relatable to them. But for Togedemaru, it's also taking Pikachu clones a little too far.